We are in Jamaica, Queens, where some 15 years ago, back in 2006, in November of 2006, all eyes were focused in on Jamaica, Queens. That's involving the death of Sean Bell, 23 years old at the time of his death. Actually, a well-touted high school pitcher. Actually, all this happened not too far away from where I grew up. Matter of a 15-minute car ride. Jamaica, Queens. Sean Bell, good, pitcher, high school pitcher, 11-0 record, 2.30 ERA, 97 strikeouts, 62 innings. A big deal. Had his whole life ahead of him. Died at the age of 23. So, on the night of his death, Bell was hosting a bachelor party at Club Kahlua, which was a strip club. We're going to where that club was. It's no longer there. But it was a strip club that was being investigated by undercover police over accusations that the owners fostered prostitution. The New York Post, which is a paper here in New York, in the New York City area, reported that Joseph Guzman, which was one of Sean Bell's friends, had an argument with a man outside of the bar and threatened to get a gun. One of Bell's friends reportedly said, "Yo, get my gun," as they left the club, allegedly. So, thinking that a shooting was about to take place, a plainclothes officer followed Bell and his companions. He alerted the backup team, who confronted Bell and his companions outside. So, according to this cop, he held out his badge, identified himself as a police officer, and ordered the driver to stop. So if you're following this story along, they're outside of, they're in a strip club. As they're leaving the club, one of the guys is saying, "Yo, get my gun." Apparently having an argument outside of the club. Now, this right here is what was the club. It's now an actual church, believe it or not. I will insert pictures of how the place looked back then. So they're leaving their clubs. Allegedly, one of Bell's friends says, "Yo, get my gun," and they're walking, and he's being followed by a plainclothes police officer. Bell and his friends then get into the car. Okay, and this happened right on that corner there. As you see, it says Sean Bell Way. This is where the incident transpired, as they are walking from the club. So they walk about, I don't know, about 900 feet onto that corner. This is where it all unfolds. So, again, ordered at this time, Bell was already so on the corner of Liverpool, there's where this transpired, this scene. He told Bell to stop. They're in the car already at this point. Instead, Bell accelerated, struck the police officer, and then collided with an unmarked police minivan. The police officer said that he saw Guzman reach for a gun. Guzman was already in the car of Sean Bell. He yelled a warning to the other policemen, and they opened fire on the car to prevent the possible shooting by Guzman. 5 policemen joined in, fired about 50 bullets into Bell's car. 50. So there are eyewitness accounts, and they conflict with the account that was provided by the police, which you just heard. Now, according to Guzman, the plainclothes detectives never identified themselves as they approached with weapons drawn. They never warned Bell before they opened fire, and just a huge disaster. Toxicology reports showed that Bell was legally intoxicated at the time he was shot. No matter what the blood alcohol level was, the police officer who initiated the shooting claimed later that he saw a fourth man in the car who fled the scene, possibly with the alleged weapon. So there was speculation. This cop is saying, listen, there was a weapon inside the vehicle. There was never no weapon found. Now, critics suggest that the police officer fabricated the alleged presence of a fourth man to justify their shooting and to avoid being convicted by a jury. So, as you follow the story along, the men were unarmed leaving the club, and they were shot 50 times. 50. Folks, I don't know. I wasn't there, but seems like that's a little bit excessive. Bell had been struck 4 times in the neck and torso. Guzman was also, who was, allegedly the bad guy here, though nothing was ever found, was shot 19 times. And Benfield, who was in the back seat of the vehicle, was hit 3 times. So, remember, Bell and his 2 friends leaving the club, walking towards what was Sean Bell Way, which we just seen. Approached by police officers. They don't stop the vehicle. They drive away. They think Guzman has the vehicle because allegedly Guzman said, "Get my gun," as he's leaving the club. They're shooting at the vehicle, shot it 19 times, 50 times. 19 times, Guzman was apparently shot. Sean Bell shot as well, who passed away. And Benfield shot as well. Benfield, Guzman survived. Sean Bell passes away. He died. So there was a criminal indictment here. All 3 of the 5, there were 5 police officers involved. 3 of them were indicted by a grand jury. Go to trial. By April of 2008, all 3 of the police officers indicted were acquitted on all counts. The judge, Arthur J. Cooperman, made a ruling rather than a jury. It was handed down in Supreme Court in Queens. The judge stated that testimony by Guzman and Benfield, the victims, did not make sense. He also cited that the fact that they had a pending $50,000 lawsuit against the city. After the ruling was made, several protests, a big story here in New York, and it continues to be a big story.
Police officers.
Here's some of the footage and before scenes at the time.
So hear his verdict. Among those supporting the Bell family, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
I've never seen a family stronger, that have displayed more dignity and restraint than the Bell family.
Friday morning, the group plans to march from the church to the courthouse for the reading of the verdict. The defense claims an undercover officer who was posing as a club patron believed a gunfight involving Bell and his friends was brewing. He confronted them as they got into Bell's car, but Bell pulled away and crashed into an unmarked police van. That's when officers opened fire. The prosecution has portrayed the officers as trigger-happy cowboys who shot first and made up a reason for it later when they realized no gun was in the car. The city is downplaying reports that additional officers will be in the area Friday in case violence breaks out, saying it doesn't expect serious trouble. Jackie Bashara, The Associated Press.
There's no justice in America for black people, okay? This was a white man's dog. They would have tranquilized him. They would have called in animal control.
Send a message to the black man that we could be shot down in the street without any justice.
The shooting was unjustified. It was planned, okay? They walked almost 400 feet to the shooting scene. It's not even near the club. All right? These men were stalked.
I know the young people in our school face being treated like criminals. And I know the young people in our school and in these schools all over Brooklyn will suffer as a result of this verdict.
How could everybody walk? How could everybody walk? You got 50 shots. What's wrong with that judge? What's wrong with the system? What you gonna do now, Mr. Sharpton? We want justice. You do nothing but appease the black community. When this first happened, every borough should have erupted. Now we can't do.